COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted various industries, including the oil and gas industry. It is shown that nearly 25% fall in petroleum usage and the industry capital expenditure and research and development spending were reduced by around 30 to 40%. Other than that, the average oil consumption in 2020 has declined substantially, and the oil and gas industry also faced obstacles including material equipment supply disruption and a labor shortage on site. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted the oil and gas industry, especially in their production. Based on the global oil production by the region, it shows that there's decline in oil production by the 2019 during the pandemic hit. As we can see here, in Malaysia, the upstream activities of Petronas reported average daily production of 2,255,000 barrels of oil equivalent in the first half of 2020, which was lower than the 2,418,000 barrel oil equivalent recorded in 2019. Other than that, the downstream activities of Petronas reported their sales of petrochemical had a slight drop to 4.2 million metric. Also, Petronas noted in the Activity Outlook 2023 to 2025 that the number of its rigs increased by 25% in 2022, which is in the post-COVID era. In China, the proportion of operational oil refinery in Shandong province decreased from 71.4% in December 2019 to 38.9% 2 months later. Refined oil production decreased by 6.6% and crude oil processing decreased by 3.3% in the first 2 months of 2020. However, Sinopec Corporation stated that gas production increased from 1,249 billion cubic feet per day in 2021 to 251 million barrels per day. In India, Indian Oil Corporation has decreased petroleum processing from 96% of total capacity in April 2020. However, as the easing of COVID-19 pandemic, the oil demand in India increased 5% annually from April to December 2021.
Next, the oil and gas industry have a major business impact of post-COVID-19 in diesel export and import in Malaysia and other countries. For example, diesel export by Petronas Malaysia. According to the Petronas 2020 annual report, the epidemic caused a drop in the demand for petroleum product worldwide with an 11% annual drop in the demand for diesel. Also, the report by Reuters, Malaysia's state oil and gas Petronas saw its net profit fall 62% in the first quarter of 2020 as the coronavirus pandemic hammered crude oil prices and fuel demand. Moreover, the Nikkei Asia study indicates that although diesel export from Petronas have not yet returned to pre-pandemic level, they have started to rise to 57.6% in November 2021 year-on-year due to recovering global demand. Next, we have diesel export and import by Pertamina Indonesia. Similarly, in Malaysia, travel restriction and lockdown around the world led to a sharp decline in the demand for diesel, especially from the aviation and transportation sectors. According to the annual report by Pertamina, their diesel export and import experienced a sharp decrease. However, diesel demand began to rebound as the economy expanded and travel restriction loosened. Diesel export and import from Pertamina started to recover and rise as well, however, they not return to their pre-pandemic level. Lastly, we have diesel export and import by China National Petroleum Corporation. After COVID, the rise in the demand for diesel has slowed down compared to earlier years, which might have an effect on CNPC import volume and source of income. Additionally, the cost of imported fuel has increased due to higher import tariffs brought on by rising global oil price from issues like the conflict in Ukraine. As for the export, the Chinese government's price restrictions on domestic fuel may deter CNPC from exporting diesel in an effort to maximize profit because low local prices favor affordability above global sales.
Next, we move to the impact of post-COVID on the oil and gas industry future strategy in Malaysia and other countries. As we all know, COVID-19 has impacted the oil and gas future strategy in Malaysia. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Malaysian oil and gas sector was operating within the context of dynamic market conditions. In 2018, Petronas, the national oil company, declared a net profit of 13.4 billion, surpassing the total profit for the years 2015 and 2016. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused a decrease in global crude oil consumption by over 30% as the result of lockdown and travel restrictions. None of the Malaysian oil and gas companies released a statement regarding employee layoff until the beginning of April 2020. Nevertheless, a Norwegian company called Aker Solutions, which has operation in Malaysia, revealed that it was going to use employee sanction to cut expenses. They stated in their statement that the company's Malaysia branch in Port Klang will be affected by staff reduction. Next, the growth in the world's crude oil demand in 2018 is still robust and is being led by Asian developing nations. However, Indonesia was not able to withstand the COVID-19 pandemic's declining effects on the oil and gas production, despite managing to rank 11th in the world for gas production and 23rd for oil production at the time. Due to the declining oil price, Indonesia was forced to lower its projected annual oil production from IDR 192 trillion to IDR 100 trillion. In addition to the decline in the price of crude oil, employee production has decreased as a result of precautions taken to stop the coronavirus from spreading. In order to preserve safe distances, fewer people are now working in the fields, as a lower industrial productivity and transportation restrictions also result in lower oil and gas consumption. In conclusion, COVID-19 has affected Malaysia and other countries' oil and gas industries' production, business and future strategy. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted the global economy, particularly the oil and gas industry, affecting both upstream and downstream activities. Moreover, the oil and gas business in Malaysia and other countries have experienced reduced import and export of gas and oil. Lastly, COVID-19 has significantly impacted the Malaysia oil and gas future strategy, causing a decrease in crude oil consumption and employee layoff.